Come out with us and play, love your London, have a banana.
In our final instalment on Balham, we check out the area of Clapham South, talk about what lies beneath the station, and reveal the importance of the area to the birth of the British punk scene. We check out some unusual buildings, check out also the local Georgian restaurant, visit a fab little pub, check out another important place for Hindu worship, and then film a couple of things we didn't have time to film in previous episodes, namely a visit to One Little Independent Records and a short lesson in pole dancing. Welcome to the final instalment, probably the final instalment of our Balham series. Yes. This is Clapham South Station. It's not in Clapham really. I mean, we're going to have a whole series on Clapham, but that's going to be sort of Clapham North and Clapham Common. Clapham South is actually technically still part of Balham. In fact, this station used to be called Balham North. It was so almost going to be called Balham North that, in fact, if you look here at the roundels on the platform, if you were to remove that sign saying Clapham South, you'll actually find behind there Balham North. That was going to be the real name of the station. It was also going to be called Nightingale Lane. After this lane here, this is Nightingale Lane here. It was going to be called Nightingale Lane. Then it was going to be called Balham North. Finally, Clapham South. Probably sounded better. As you know from our very early episode, Balham had a sort of an early reputation of being a bit of a naff place to live. But yeah, so another Charles Holden station, of course. Sorry, I don't have my external microphone with me today, so it's going to be quite a lot of sort of like close-ups of me, and I do apologise in advance. So this is a Grade 2 listed station, and it opened in 1926. As I said, it was going to be called Balham North. It's on the Northern Line. It's actually zones 2 and 3, so that's the difference between this station and the other ones that we've been looking at in this series, which means that it's open on all night on Friday nights and Saturday nights. But like the other stations, there's no step-free access. And there's no toilets either, so what is wrong with this line and toilets and access? Now, see that if you look over there, that is the entrance to the air raid shelter. This is one of only 8 stations that has deep level air raid shelters, and it opened in July 1944. Obviously it was used during the Blitz. And it was also used, shut up, sorry, it goes down 11 stories, after it was used as a shelter during the Second World War, it was also used to temporarily rehouse all the people who came from Jamaica after 30 days at sea on the Windrush ship, part of the so-called Windrush generation. Obviously there was there were so many people coming, and it was not enough time to sort of arrange proper accommodation for everyone, so they went down there. It must have been horrible. Just imagine, after leaving beautiful Jamaica, 30 days at sea, and then being stuck 11 stories down. Now it is possible to go down there. I don't think we've got time to do it today, but if you were to go, it's 180 steps. 180 steps. They're very, very strict about what you wear. So in fact, Sharon wouldn't be able to go anyway, because as you can see, she's wearing open-toed sandals. They're very strict about that, so she wouldn't be able to go anyway. There's no toilets down there at all. So when you're there, it's an hour and a half, no toilets at all. Funnily enough, there used to be a toilet when it was a shelter. Yeah, human waste used to be ejected into the sewers via compressed air. So it's really strange why they don't do that again and reuse that system. Now there's no toilets at all, and again, things just like worse now than they were then. So there we go. I mean, hopefully this will never ever be used again as an air raid shelter. Who knows in these current times? Things are looking a bit grim, aren't they, at the moment? Hopefully there'll be peace around the corner. So over there, that road over there is Inglewood Road. At the bottom of that road is where a fresh-faced guitarist and singer from Ohio, Chrissie Hynde, came over and she was working, I think her first job was selling handbags in Oxford Street in an indoor market. And this is where she lived. She lived here in a flat on Inglewood Road. And this was really her manner. This is what made her. This being the punk sort of like where punk really started. Is here, Clapham South. I'll explain why in a sec. So we're now on Nightingale Lane. Just behind me is Clapham Mansions, and it was here on the grass where Chrissie Hynde taught. Over there. No, it's here, this grass, I believe it was this grass. Actually, I'm not sure if it was this grass or that grass over there. I think it was this grass here. And it was here where Chrissie Hynde taught a young Johnny Rotten how to play guitar. She was really there right at the very, very forefront of the punk explosion in Balham. And this is where he learned to play guitar, here on the grass. She taught him. In fact, she was very, very well connected with the early days of the Sex Pistols. She was, in fact, as I said, she came from Ohio. She overstayed on her visa, so in order to not be deported, she was about to be deported, she was going to marry Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols. They went as far as going to the registry office, just around the corner from here, and only to discover that it was actually closed that day. So it never happened. She was never deported either, as far as I'm aware. But she almost married Sid Vicious. That could have completely changed the history of punk as we know it. But yeah, so this was 1973, 74. Oh, yes. I'm sure Chrissie and Sid gave this tree a hug as well. Anyway, as I said, it was here where Chrissie and Johnny Rotten, John Lydon of the Sex Pistols, jammed together. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about Chrissie Hynde, there's a fantastic book called Reckless, My Life as a Pretender. Fascinating book. If you use our link, you can get it, a special offer for £9.34 instead of £10.99. It's another way of us making a tiny bit of money. We only get a few pennies that way. If you want to support us other ways, then please, you can become our patron via Patreon. Really important. Thanks to all the wonderful patrons we've already got. If you want to spend any money, and I don't blame you, then you can also just share these videos. Like this video. I'm just going to wait for a second so you hit that like button. That's it, thank you. And also obviously subscribe, because we've got lots of viewers but don't subscribe always. Subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know when we have new episodes. There will be some more stuff on this area in future, but we are going to be moving on to another area of London fairly soon. And remember to comment in the YouTube section, because the comments are really, really important. Hear that wren? Yeah. There's a wren in that tree. Yeah, so we're going to carry on walking down Nightingale Lane, because there's a few interesting buildings to show you. One of them very relevant to the history of punk in the area. Can't wait to show you. It's an amazing building. In fact, oh, that's nice, isn't it? High Tree's house. But the one I want to talk to you about is Thurleigh Court. Look at that, Matt, beautiful. I won't ring it. I won't ring it, but bell number 10 is where Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood lived for many, many years. Now, Malcolm McLaren was, of course, the brains behind the Sex Pistols. It was he who put the Sex Pistols together. Vivienne Westwood was at the forefront of haute couture and the punk fashion, and her amazing shops on the King's Road. Now, of course, she's Dame Vivienne Westwood, still alive to this day. Malcolm McLaren unfortunately died. Now, in fact, Dame Vivienne carried on living here up until fairly recently. She still lives in the area. When we do our Clapham episodes, we'll probably be talking a lot more about her. But as I said, she lived here after Malcolm McLaren moved out after having an affair with Andrea Lintz. As you can see there, the blue plaque, M Bateman, cartoonist. Lived here between 1910 and 1914. His full name was Henry Mayo Bateman, but he was always known as M Bateman. And he was a very famous cartoonist. He was originally from Australia. He was born in 1887. So he would have actually been in his mid to late 20s when he was living here, and he was already establishing himself in his cartoon career. And in fact, he would have actually been living here when he drew the really famous cartoon he did of Winston Churchill in 1912, which you can see on your screen right now. And he was also an Olympian, because in 1928 he took part representing, I believe, Great Britain. I don't think he represented Australia, representing Great Britain at the Amsterdam Olympics in the category of painting. Yes, that was an Olympic event, part of the art, so there's etching and painting and everything. He didn't win. A Brit did actually win silver for painting. It was a female artist, because well, it was one of the nice things about that particular category is, like equestrian events and others, painting was one that men and women competed equally together. A fantastic female artist, Dame Laura Knight. She got the silver medal. He didn't even come in the medals, but and Dame Laura Knight, fantastic impressionist painter. Do check out some of her work. She was only the second woman, believe it or not, to be elected as a full member of the Royal Academy, and of course, as I said, she was an Olympic medalist for Great Britain. But yes, so this is where M Bateman lived, just up there. And that's not the only blue plaque that we're going to be looking at in this episode, but we are first of all just going to have a little walk further down Nightingale Lane, number 74. Interesting building there, interesting structure next to the building as well, which I can't wait to show you. Okay, so this is Broomwood Hall, Broomwood Hall School, now a girls' school. Used to be a private residence, valued at about £10 million today. What makes me chuckle is that wall over there. See that wall over there, just behind me, to my right, well, to my left, if you're looking at me. Strange, isn't it? What do you think that wall is?
Something that got hit by the Luftwaffe?
Nope.
No? Well, it looks old. Look at those buttresses.
Yes. What that wall is basically, it's a folly.
Oh.
When that building there was built, the owner did not like the fact that the windows were overlooking into his private garden. So he built, out of spite and out of privacy, he built this wall right in front of their windows so that they couldn't look into his garden.
Instead of planting a tree. What a piece of work.
I know, it wasn't the best of neighbours. No, but the funny thing is, as you can see from this beautiful Italian tower, from that tower he could look into everyone's garden, all the gardens around. But he wasn't happy when that building was built and people could look from their windows right into his garden. So there you go. That's not the nicest of attitudes, is it?
No comment.
Okay, so now we're not going to go any further that way, because that's going to take us towards Wandsworth Common. and the whole Wandsworth area, which obviously will be having a series on its own.
In about 9 years.
No, won't be as long as that. Actually, it depends. If we it depends if we do it under W for Wandsworth.
If you subscribe, we'll work faster.
Or Clapham Junction. I'm not sure. That's true. We'll work faster. We're actually going to have our first drink of the day.
Ooh, in the Nightingale.
We're going to the Nightingale.
Marvelous. It's beer o'clock.
Now this is a real villagey sort of pub. Well, you don't really feel like you're in London at all when you're here. You feel like you're in some kind of little village.
Well, it
built.
was a village, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a village. Well, this is a lovely little pub built in 1853. Quite famous for its pub quizzes as well. They have a weekly pub quiz here, which is meant to be quite competitive. No, we're not doing that today. We're just going to have a very quick drink, and then move on. We're going to go back towards Clapham South Station via another couple of buildings that we missed out on the way. Hello. Would you have any side as well?
Beer for me, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Oh, that's very nice. Well, isn't that nice? We have a nice little spot here. Watch the tennis. Oh, that's nice. Bravo. Chesky.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like Chesky beer.
And I've got Aspel. £11.90 for 2 pints. That was a lovely little pint. We're just on our way back to Clapham South, but first of all, we're just going to go to Thurleigh Avenue. Just over here, Thurleigh Avenue. There's another blue plaque to look at, another interesting story, another interesting Balhamite to talk about. Just on here, number 3. So, as you can see behind me, it's the home of Gus Elen, Ernest Augustus Elen, to give him his full name. Really important person in the music hall entertainment business. So he lived here from about 1898 onwards, so really most of his career. He was a very private man. He used to breed chickens in there as well. His most famous song, which probably not most of you don't know, but if you do know anything about music hall, you'll know it, was a song called If It Wasn't for the Houses in Between. And because it's out of copyright, there's a little bit of him singing it now. If it wasn't for the houses in between. He did quite a few other songs, but that's probably the one that he's most famous for. Take it away, Gus.
How it really is a very pretty garden, and Chingford to the eastward could be seen. With a ladder and some glasses, you could see to Etney marshes, if it wasn't for the houses in between.
Okay, so we are back on Balham Hill. Balham Hill, of course, is the A24. It's that Roman road, also known as Staines Street, that links London Bridge to Chichester. And this part of it is called Balham Hill. There's Clapham South over there, and here is a little cafe restaurant called Cafe the Georgian. Now, if you remember in our Angel Islington episode, we tried to visit a place called Little Georgia, nothing to do with this, but they were completely sold out, so we couldn't get a table for love nor money, but we should be able to get one here. We're just going to have a little snack in here, because I hear their cheese bread is to die for. I'd love, hopefully, maybe to try their khachapuri. Anyway, let's go and check it out. Love Georgian food. Definitely want to go to Batumi one day and Tbilisi. Looks amazing. Anyway, I want to shout out to NFKRZ. If you're watching this, big fans of your channel.
There we go.
Aha! Freshly made. Oh, that looks amazing. That looks amazing. Thank you. Yes. So freshly made Look at that.
That's how we're getting it.
Yeah, took about 20 minutes to make it, especially for us.
Oh, look at the color of that yolk.
Cheese spread with egg yolk and butter. I'm not a big fan of egg white, so they've made one specially without egg white. I can't wait to eat it.
I can't wait to eat it either.
This is fantastic. Circus Mircus.
Circus Mircus.
Yeah, I think it was about £12.50. Obviously, back in downtown Tbilisi, it only cost like a few lari. But this is fine. I can't wait. I can't wait for this.
Gotta show it to the people. Oh man, look at that butter. Woohoo! It's cholesterol, man.
Okay, so should I cut it in half or?
No, don't. It'll spill everywhere.
How do we do this?
Yeah, put it on the plate. So break bits off and dip. That's how you do it.
Oh.
And then it leaks on your plate. That's all right. Then that's normal.
Here we go. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Oh, that amazing?
Dig it round. Oh, that's one of the better ones I've had.
No.
That is damn good.
Gabrielli. Thank you. That was delicious. The Georgian.
Boy, I'm glad I had a hard fast yesterday and a semi-fast today. Oh.
Yeah. Love their alphabet as well. Yeah. And it's right opposite the Westbury Court. Amazing building. Art Deco. I'm really surprised to learn that that's not actually listed. It really should be listed and kept for posterity.
It's in trouble.
It's in trouble.
It's in trouble. I wonder why they haven't listed it. It's a disgrace. And that's a beauty. It's a beauty. Look at those windows.
Fantastic. There really is just so much Art Deco. I suppose that's maybe why it isn't listed, because there is so much Art Deco architecture around here. But that one is really special. The Westbury Court should be protected. But this, of course, Majestic Food and Wines. Well, it actually used to be the Odeon Cinema. Very well-known Odeon Cinema. Absolutely beautiful from the outside when it opened. Right down there where it says now the word Majestic, it used to obviously have the words Odeon in beautiful neon lights.
A panel telling you about it there.
Yeah, and well, I'm going to be telling them about it.
All right.
And of course, this is a George Coles designed building.
No, don't go out. Watch out.
This is one of the George Coles cinemas. Odeon, of course, comes from the Greek for theatre. But what's quite interesting about it is it is sort of like a clever publicity a stunt. Oscar Deutsch, who ran Odeon Cinemas, they realised that actually Odeon was an initialism for Oscar Deutsch entertains our nation. As you can see, refurbished in 1999, but it still has more or less its look and feel. Yeah, so we're going to carry on walking down Balham Hill. Blondes for Danger was the very first film that they showed there at the Odeon in 1938. Blondes for Danger. Yes, quite an obscure British thriller. Blondes for Danger. Okay, let's carry on walking down, see what else we can find.
Somebody else said that show due respect to and
okay, so behind me is the Balham Mandir. It's an ashram, the Radha Krishna temple, Shyama Ashram. Interesting story about this. It was set up by a woman, a very holy woman. She originally started one in 1967 in Leicester for the Gujarati community, and her name was Her Holiness Ma Shyama Devi. And she set up quite a few of these around the world. This one was set up in 1977, and she's unfortunately now reincarnated into someone else, but her daughter still runs this place along with two other ladies, and they have some extraordinary events here. So it's a very, very peaceful place. They also have, in fact, on Tuesday nights, so 7 o'clock tonight is when they have their arti, and after the arti they have bhajans. And maybe we'll find someone in there and tell us all about it. But during the arti, you can it's like a big sort of coming together of the local Gujarati population. And they also have tabla lessons as well, so you can learn tablas. That's at 7 o'clock tonight, I believe. I don't think we'll probably be here at that time, but let's go and check it out. Wow. Do you mind if I just show? Yeah? Thank you. And there she is, Ma Shyama. Can I see the Shiva temple as well?
yeah, sure,
yeah,
sure.
thank you. There you go, there's Hanuman, there's Ganesh on the left. That'll be...
There's Ganesha as well.
Who's in the middle?
That looks...
That'll be her, Ma.
Yeah, she looks a bit Kali-esque.
And there's the Shiva Lingam with Nandi the bull in front.
Hanuman is also dedicated to Ram. There he is, with the mountain.
Yes.
And his mace.
Yes.
Carrying that mountain to get all the right things. They didn't know, so he took the whole mountain.
Yes.
To get for the special secret plants and herbs they needed.
Yeah.
And he flew back with the mountain in his hand and his mace.
Yes.
Nothing could stop Hanuman.
Thank you. We're almost back in Balham again, back in Balham station where we started off this journey, this series on Balham. It's been a nice little journey, isn't it? Coming towards the end of it now. We will, as I said, probably be back in this area if we manage to maybe film inside the Tooting Beck Lido. We're still waiting for permission on that. But other than that, we've almost finished our journey around Balham and surroundings. And behind me, just over there, Deco Court. Remember from our very first episode on Balham, Sharon drew it, and we were raising money for Ukraine. Unfortunately, no one bid. Maybe we put the price up a little bit too high. We started it at £100. We can have another go at selling it. Money again, all the money will go to help bring food over to Ukraine and the border. We're gonna put a link down there so that you can maybe have another go. We're gonna start it at £50 this time. Obviously it took Sharon an awful long time to make, and it's such a lovely iconic Art Deco building. And as I said, the money's not coming to us, it's going to Ukraine. So final push, come on. So behind me is One Little Independent Records. Used to be known as One Little Indian. It changed its name after Crass fan, Crass being one of the acts on the label, complained, even though the Crass logo is actually a little bit dodgy. They complained that One Little Indian, the name and the logo was really not politically correct anymore. Fair enough, so they're still called OLI, but instead of One Little Indian, it's now One Little Independent Records. Let's go and have a little quick look in there. Maybe Bertie will be around there to show us around. Let's go and have a look. Hello, this is One Little Independent Records.
Yes.
Yeah, right now. Just we're doing a vlog about London, and I just couldn't go past it without showing it.
Yeah. Do you want to see anyone? Or you right?
No, I'd love to see. I'd love to see around.
They're upstairs grafting.
Yeah.
You can look at my warehouse if you like.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Have you got a card?
I do.
Have you got what?
A card.
I don't need a card. I'm good.
No. Okay.
right.
All right.
I don't do
Lovely.
the internet. I mean, I know this it means nothing to me. Sorry, I was going
That's
to
all
move
right.
the truck.
Sorry.
That's right. But as long as you can get round my truck, I'll move the truck out.
Yeah.
Well, you can get past that.
Let me take
Yeah,
that
I
out of
can,
your
yeah.
hand there. That's,
Lovely. Thank you.
No price. What are you doing anyway?
We're doing a vlog about London. So
I
we've
know,
got,
yes, but what about London?
just all the bars, the history. It's a 12-year project.
Wow.
12 years, and we're going to every single street in London.
Oh, nice.
So-
Like the good old A to Z as it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Indeed
And obviously
it is.
this is where Björk. Did she ever come here?
Oh, yeah, she comes here, yeah.
Yeah?
She has numerous places, but she's on tour at the moment.
Yes, she's at the Blue Dot Festival later on this month.
Yes, this month.
This month,
End of the month sometime.
Yeah, I had tickets to go for that back before the pandemic, but I
Oh,
was,
you still the same one? Oh, that's right, she was on that.
yeah. I was on the guest list for that.
Wasn't it?
I was on the guest list for that, but the magazine I used to work for is folded, so I can't go on the guest list anymore. Oh no.
Well, you go ahead. I don't want.
You go and look at anything you like.
Okay.
Then I'll just follow you around. Boy, oh boy.
So here we go.
Storage to me. Look out. They got everything in everything and anything you could want in here. Nice. Da, 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 da.
There we go. Thank you. Came out a different way this time. Thank you very much.
There wasn't much here. I mean, it
No,
gives
but
you a vague.
yeah. Well, we're talking about.
Dusty corners of London.
Yeah. So be good. Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
So
He-
whereabouts are you going next?
Barking. So lots of Billy Bragg.
We're
Lots of
still
Billy
on the
Bragg.
bees.
Well, Billy Bragg there, yeah.
Yeah. Dave Vera Lynn.
Yes. Barney, what else is? Well, McCarthy. Well, they were half up there, weren't they? McCarthy went into stereo lad. They were half up that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
A couple of mod bands from the early 80s in there.
Yeah.
But yes, no, that's right. So a blogger, sadly, that won't be of any use to me. And I do my own little wee record label, and I don't have any social media. I mean, when we were kids, we had no social media.
Well, when I was a kid, I had no social media.
And like the world survived.
And it will survive again when we all crash.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It's all good.
Cool, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Right now.
Cool.
Cool.
Nice one.
So, back in our first episode on Balham, all those episodes ago, we spoke very briefly about pole dancing, which is becoming a very wholesome activity. It's no longer got the seedy connotations that it had in yesteryear. It is potentially going to be an Olympic exhibition sport in Brisbane in 2032. Maybe then eventually a proper sport. In fact, it may already by then be a proper sport as far as the International Olympic Committee is concerned. So yes, I mean it's all building up to that, along with footgolf. Remember we went to the footgolf when we did our Alperton episodes. So yes, those two sports are likely to become Olympic sports at some point in the very near future. But here at the United Services and Services Rendered Club, part of the CIU, we are going to hopefully check out pole dancing. So I'm here with Sam from the pole studio, Balham Pole Studio.
Yeah.
I mean, I take it there's quite a lot of different pole studios.
There's 6 or 7, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah.
And you do beginners classes,
yeah,
and you do advanced classes as well. And there's also another colleague of yours that does other nights.
Yes.
So tell us about pole dancing. Because obviously, it's in the family channel. This is for everyone. Obviously, now these days, pole dancing has not got the same connotations it does before. Obviously, in some places it does, but it's also a fitness thing. So tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, it's kind of an exercise like anything else. It's kind of has gymnastic kind of acrobatic based skills, and it's just kind of a fun hobby for people to.
I mean, I think it's fun whenever you see it on Britain's Got Talent and stuff like that. Some of them are just unbelievable. I mean, they are gymnasts. So I mean, obviously you've got some intermediate levels and levels. How good are some of the people? Could they?
Oh yeah, great. I mean, we've got such a wide range of kind of skill levels and things like that. So
and so how much does it cost to do the lessons? I suppose all the details on your website.
All the details are on the website.
So at the bottom of your screen you'll see, or at the top of your screen rather, you'll see a URL, and also there'll be a URL down at the bottom as well, where you'll be able to click on and get more information. And also, I mean, there is talks about it becoming an Olympic sport potentially in Brisbane 2032.
Yeah. There's a long way to go. Yes.
Okay.
There's definitely, so it's been recognised by the don't quote me on this, but by the
International Olympic Committee.
Yes, I think so, or a step down from the IOC. There is the first step has been ticked.
I know, it's the same with footgolf. That's another one that's hoping to sort of like break into Olympic events.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the we were speaking earlier about back in 1928 when painting was an Olympic event.
Oh.
In fact, someone from Balham was tried to represent Great Britain, and he didn't actually win, but he in the Olympics in Amsterdam. So these things change, obviously.
These things change, yes, and I imagine that 20 years ago no one would think skateboarding would be an Olympic sport.
That's right.
So it comes in. Yeah. Pole still has a long way to go, but there is governing bodies that kind of are there to organise that.
So how? I mean, obviously I've never done anything like this before. But how, from a complete beginner, how quickly can one sort of like?
Everybody's so different. It kind of depends on the individual, what their backgrounds are, things like that. But it's accessible for every level. So there's something that everyone can do, regardless of their kind of fitness. And what you're going to do is you're going to stand with your hips in front of the pole.
Hips in front of the pole.
Then you're going to lean backwards. You're going to squeeze the pole with your inside armpit, so try and get your shoulder behind the pole if you can. So hips in front. What I want you to think about is bringing your shoulder behind the pole. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to hold on nice and tight here with our inside hand as low as we can with our shoulder trying to get in line with the elbow. Okay? Yeah. Other hand's going to come above. Now you're going to squeeze your hands together. You're going to bend your knees a little bit. And then you're just going to see if you can take your feet off the floor. There you go. Brilliant. Good. There we go. Really nice. Okay. And then, if we've done it on one side, we have to swap it over, so we've got to do the same thing on the other side. So, hips in front, shoulder behind, hands on, shoulder behind the pole. So, lean backwards, get the shoulder, so you think about the pole in the armpit. Yeah. Still. So, bring your shoulder back.
Back. Okay.
There we go. And then outside hand above. So, outside being the furthest one away. And then from there, again, feet up off the floor. There you go. Good job. Okay. So we can do something called a dip turn, and that looks like this. So a dip turn.
D-I-P-T-U-R-N.
D-I-P, yes.
Okay.
T-U-R-N, yes. So you're going to take your inside hand up nice and high. Outside hand is going to be a little bit lower. Now rather than having this leg on the pole, what you're going to do, you're going to step forwards on the closest leg to the pole, to the inside leg. So just take the other leg. So step forward with the other leg. So swap, yep, there we go. And give yourself a little space. Now you're going to take your outside leg and you're going to draw a circle all the way around the pole till your feet come together.
Oh, like that.
Just like that. So all the way around, full, yep, turn into it. Good.
Oh yeah.
Kind of.
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you. That was fun.
You're good.
Well, there you go. So come, make sure you come here to the pole studio in Balham and speak to Sam or speak to one of the other instructors and get fit. And you never know, you might be one day representing Great Britain in Brisbane. Who knows? Who knows? We can but dream. Here we go. So, you know what's coming now?
What is it?
We're saying goodbye.
Oh.
We're saying goodbye.
Let's go in the sun. Here.
Let's go in the sun.
Where are we going next?
Well, you tell me where we're going next. We're going to Houndstitch. The Isle of Dogs.
Yes. Yeah, hey, and there they are.
No, we're not going to the Isle of Dogs, are we?
No.
We're going to...
Barking.
We're going to Barking. We're going to Barking and Dagenham. How exciting is that? We're going to... we don't want to brag about it, but we are going to the hometown rather, of probably this country's most revered folk icon, who is still alive today. And he has a street named after him, Bragg Close, in Barking. Very, very rare for someone who's still alive to have streets named after them in this country. So can't wait to, we're going to see loads of Bragg, loads of places where he lived, where he grew up. There's more stuff as well. There's Dame Vera Lynn. There's quite a lot happening in Barking, and of course Dagenham, famous for its famous car factory as well. You may have seen the film Made in Dagenham. Anyway, so let's see you. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Till next time, and bye!
I never say it at the same time. You've got to do it better.
I think you're absolutely fine.
Oh, fine.
But before we bring you the joys of Barking and Dagenham, we have a little special we're working on about mudlarking. And we even get to chat to the absolute queen of mudlarking herself, Lara Makelum. So remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out.
From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to beyond, come love your London with us and sing with us this song. There's no more smog, but we've a vlog to brighten up your day. Come love your London with us from Kew to Haringey. Come out with us and play, love your London, have a banana.